Hello and welcome to this video for part 2 of finding the gradient. So in the last video, we looked at finding the gradient given a graph and we used this formula. But in this video, we are going to look at if we're given two pairs of coordinates, we're going to use this formula. Let's check it out. So it says find the gradient of the lines joining the following pairs of points. So just look at this left-hand question. All right, we've got two pairs of coordinates and we look to our formula sheet and we see two formulas for gradient m. I'm going to select this bottom formula. I'm going to write it straight down. M equals the change in y, so y2 take y1, divided by the change in x, x2 take x1. Now the key here is label your points properly. So just this first point, I'm going to call it x1, y1, since we label points x, y, right, in that order. So it's got to be called the first point, x1, y1, the second, x2, y2. And then we have all of our values. Notice there's 4 values here, and there's 4 values in that formula. So we can substitute them in very carefully. y2 is 5. Take y1 is 3. Divide. x2 is 3. Take x1 is 2. Now, that looks crazy, but it's fine. You're going to simplify this. So we've got a fraction here, and we're going to simplify on the numerator first, then on the denominator, and then as a fraction. That's how we look at it. So numerator first, 5 take 3 is 2. Now let's get to our denominator. 3 take 2 is 1. Now we're looking at as an entire fraction. So 2 divided by 1 is 2. Our gradient is 2 here. So nice, we've done it. Now over here, we looked at our formula sheet, we're given two pairs of points, so we use the bigger formula. And maybe I'll just copy it. So m is y2 take y1 on x2 take x1, yep. Don't have to memorize that, I hope. Now, next you've got to label your points properly. First point, x1, y1. Second point, x2, y2. And then we are just going to substitute in. y2 is 8. Take y1 is 6. x2 is 0. Take x1, -2. Now, we can write that a little bit simpler. But yeah, I'll simplify on the numerator first. So 8 take 6 is 2. Now, remember, taking a negative is the same as a plus. I'll just make a little note here. That's the same. 0 take -2 is the same as 0 plus 2. And what's 0 plus 2? Just 2. 2 divide 2 is 1. Our gradient is 1 for those two pairs of points. Okay, gradient of the lines joining these pairs of points. And when I see that, you can see that formula in my formula sheet, and I'm going to label the points. And then I'll write my formula carefully. It has to be in that order, okay? When you write the formula, y2 take y1 on x2 take x1. All right, you could label this point x2, y2 and this one x1, y1 if you wanted. But you need to be consistent with how you're substituting them into that formula. Okay, now formula, substitute. y2 is 6, take y1 is 5, x2 is 1, take x1 is -1. And we've got that thing again where taking a negative is the same as adding. So simplify on numerator first. 6 take 5 is 1. Simplify on denominator. 1 plus 1 is 2. And we are done. You could answer that as a decimal if you like, but a fraction is enough. right. Find the gradient. Now remembering that formula. M is the change in y. So y2 take y1 over the change in x. 4 values to substitute, and there's 4 little coordinates here. Let's label them properly. This is x, y, this is x, y, this is the first point, second point. So substitute. 1, take -4. And I can make a note to myself that that's 1 plus 4. x2 is 1. x1 is 3. So simplifying on that numerator first. 1 plus 4 is 5. 1 take 3. Well, looking at the number line here, if you start at 1 and you're taking away, right, 3, you're going to be getting into the negatives. So 1 leaves us at -2. All right, we're crossing into those negatives. Yeah, so that's our answer. -2.5, or you can leave it as a fraction like that. Okay, that's our gradient. You can do this. Now, this is just a little bit of revision from the last video. So it says, what 2 points should I select to determine the gradient of each line? So since we're given a graph, we are going to be using this formula if we need to find gradient. But yeah, what 2 points should I select to determine the gradient of each line? So let's look at this red line, because some students have a bit of trouble selecting the points that they'll use. So I wouldn't select this point here. It's going to give me a decimal number. As I travel along this line, I can see that that intersects perfectly with some whole numbers. So I could select that point. Another good point is to select, a great giveaway is just the intercept. If you're given an intercept, that is an awesome point to have. All right. Now looking at this orange line, what 2 points could I select? I'll travel along the line and hit the first point I reckon I could use. This one. Because it gives me a whole number here and a whole number there. So that's a great point to use. What's another point as I travel along? Can't use that. Could use that. Nice. And what about this green line? As I'm traveling along, that's a point that I could use. Gives a whole number. And traveling further along, that's a point I could use. And the last one here, let's look at it. Okay, I don't think I drew this line very well, but that should intersect perfectly here. And traveling further along, I wouldn't use that point. It'll give a weird decimal. Use the ones that will give you whole number coordinates. Okay, and then I think, yeah, just a little recap from the last video. These lines, so this line here has a gradient of 0. It's a flat line. And a gradient that's like a cliff straight up and down is undefined. M equals 0, M is undefined. And yeah, these are our tips. So this is this is the formula we just used, given 2 points. So I will say as the summary, label your points. X1, Y1, X2, Y2. And the last video looked at that, so maybe you want to go back and watch that one. It's a few little steps to remember on dropping a right angle triangle on a graph. And yeah, I think that's about it. So I will see you in the next video. All right, talk to you soon.